A crying baby is impossible to ignore, but a quiet baby can be easy to forget. Every year, dozens of children lose their lives because otherwise attentive adults forgot they were in the back seat. It only takes a moment for a car to heat up to dangerous levels, even on cooler days. So get in the habit of always looking in the back seat and use reminders to ensure baby is always with you. Where's baby? Look before you lock. Paid for by NHTSA.
003433. MrBugs.com. On the World Wide Web, they know what bugs you. Had a great weekend. Played a gig at Sugar Creek Supper Club, which was wonderful. Everybody had a good time. And it was another one of those. I interacted with quite a few people over the weekend. And I get asked the same question a lot of times by people. And it's not a bad question. It's a fair question. And it's a question that continually confounds Americans, particularly conservative Americans. And the question is this: why does the press keep giving Joe Biden a pass? They just keep giving him a pass on everything. I mean, we've been seeing what's been unfolding overseas here for the past couple of days. And the press has asked a couple of kind of tepid questions. Hey, can we talk to him? No? Okay. And they let it go. But think about the number of things that the press has given Joe Biden a pass on. And let me be clear. When I say Joe Biden, just think of it as an all-encompassing name that involves his entire administration. Okay? Because I think we all know that Joe Biden is not actually running things. He is the figurehead, but there is a cabal behind him making these decisions. We know Susan Rice is involved. We know Valerie Jarrett is probably involved. Barack Obama has had his hand in. We know that. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Kamala Harris at all making some decisions. And then a bunch of career diplomats and career politicians, what we used to call as the deep state. But now they've surfaced because they're running things and doing so more openly. So when I say Joe Biden, I'm not talking about the man Joe Biden. It's like when I say Bon Jovi, I'm not talking about John Bon Jovi. I'm talking about the whole band, okay? So Joe Biden isn't just Joe Biden. I'm talking about the whole band here when I say this. Well, here's what the press has given Biden a pass on. Hunter Biden, his son, right? Giving him a pass on the border. 96% drop off in coverage of the border crisis, which is at its peak. It's the worst it's been since the man took office. And coverage of the border is down 96%. Now think about this. If you took it down 100%, there'd be no coverage. So they took it down to 4% of what it once was. COVID resurgence. I mean, this is going on, and for some reason, the press that couldn't stop blaming Donald Trump and talking about how poorly he handled COVID can't seem to get started when it comes to talking about Joe Biden and COVID. Because apparently it's whoever is in charge. I mean, Donald Trump didn't create it. He didn't manufacture it. He did everything he could to keep it off of our shores, as did every world leader. And yet they pilloried him, and they're giving Joe Biden a complete pass on it. They're giving him a pass on Kamala's handling of anything. Anything he says, I'm putting Kamala in charge of this. And then she muffs it up horribly, and nobody ever asks Joe Biden or anyone in his administration about it. Inflation, giving him a complete pass on inflation. Giving a pass on gas prices, which you could say is just part of inflation, but it's so bad it deserves its own category, gas prices. Giving him a pass on our relationship with China, giving him a pass on our relationship with Russia, giving him a pass on the fact that crime is at an all-time high in many major metropolitan areas. New York City, Chicago, Baltimore, Atlanta, Minneapolis, my old stomping grounds, Portland, L.A., Seattle. These are the places where crime has gone completely off the chain. The press, total pass on Biden, giving him no hard questions about this at all. And then, of course, Afghanistan. The press has given him a complete pass every step of the way in Afghanistan. So it's a fair question. Why does the press give Joe Biden, the band, a pass? Why do they not ever ask him tough questions about this? Well, they give Joe Biden a pass for the same reason they give every Democrat a pass. The same reason that they gave Hillary Clinton a pass about everything when she was running for the highest office. Same reason that they gave Barack Obama a pass about everything when he was in office. They agree with the policies and the policy philosophy espoused by Joe Biden. They agree with that policy. They agree with that philosophy. And because they agree with it, it's okay that Joe Biden may have sexually assaulted. That's not a small term, sexually assault. Not sexually harassed, sexually assaulted one of his campaign workers years ago. Well, we're not going to investigate that because we agree with Joe Biden and his policies. We're just going to let that pass. We're going to let it go on by. I mean, he's a progressive liberal today because that's what he thinks it takes to stay in office. He's a progressive liberal, and they're progressive liberals, and they think these policies are great. And so they're going to give him a pass on all of these things because they agree with the policies. Now, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I started a radio show that was all talk radio. It was 1999. And every single talk radio on the air, every show seemed to be about right versus left. There were many people on the air who just took the conservative view on everything and, liberal bad, conservative good, end of story. And I just thought that was extremely rudimentary and two-dimensional and not something that I really appreciated or wanted to do. And so I said at the time, I'm not going to make this show about right versus left. We're going to make it about right versus wrong. And then I realized there's a lot of people who use those terms, right and wrong. And what is considered right and wrong is largely up for grabs in society. Many of us may feel that a man who identifies as a woman, competing in women's sports and dominating because he's got longer legs and bigger lungs and a larger heart, is wrong. Others would say, oh, no, that's absolutely right because that person identifies as a female, and so you should let that person compete as a female. So right versus wrong is so subjective that I instead changed the focus of the show, not right versus left, not right versus wrong, but rather ideas that work versus ideas that don't work. Okay? That's really what it comes down to, is these ideas that you're applying, are they getting results? That's the question. If they're not getting results, trash them and try something else. If they are getting results, well, then they're good ideas. They're achieving our desired, stated goal here. So let's kind of put all of this to the test where Team Biden is concerned. Are these policies that the press is so enamored of they won't ask him about them, and he's so enamored of he's putting them in place, are these policies ideas that work? Well, thus far, where Hunter Biden is concerned, we have a corrupt administration where the president's son is literally selling access to his dad for $500,000 a painting. They figured out something that was so subjective that they could say, well, no one can really tell us how much this piece of art is worth. It's worth whatever we can get for it. Well, we can get $500,000 for it, not bothering to mention we're not really selling the painting. We're selling access to the president, right? Is that an idea that works? Well, it works for them. It doesn't work for the American people. Where the border is concerned, his policies have brought us a porous border that is letting in record numbers of illegal immigrants every month. Literally, a record is broken every month by the number of illegals that are getting into this country. And roughly 20% of those are COVID positive. Is that an idea that works? Is his policy an idea that works? If the stated goal is to make sure America has borders and that we don't allow illegal immigration into this country, which is what the law is, by the way, then no, that policy does not work. COVID resurgent, it's a mangled approach. His policy is a mishmash of bad ideas, mixed messages, very little science, an increase in cases across vaccinated and unvaccinated people, No trust in leaders on how to handle it. You ask Americans, who do you trust on this? And the answer is not really anybody. We don't trust the school boards who are trying to mask up children against all science. We don't trust Fauci because he's been on all four sides of every issue. I mean, there's really nobody whose words, like, I'll trust my doctor. That's as far as I'm willing to go. I think most people would say that. So there's a policy. It's not even really a policy where it comes to COVID. I don't know what the hell it is he's doing, but it's not a policy. When it comes to Kamala's handling of anything, this is the most incompetent vice president we've ever had. She can't give away a free vaccine. She has suggested only age-old failed methods of stopping the border surge. Well, why don't we get on to Central America and give those corrupt regimes a lot of money to keep their people there? Yeah, they're going to take your money and not keep their people there. That's what they've done in the past. They're going to continue to do it. That's a policy that doesn't work. Inflation up 5.4% year over year. No end in sight. This is largely due to government spending, fiscal policy, mixed messages on shutdowns. Is his policy on money a policy that works? It is not. He's failing so far 5 for 5 in terms of failing. And these are the policies that, once again, the press supports. You have to remember, they're on board. This is why they're not bothering to attack the guy. They're not bothering to ask him any hard questions because they support all these policies. They support a son selling access to his dad. They support a porous border. They support a mangled approach to this pandemic that doesn't involve science at all. They support an incompetent vice president. They seem to be supporting monetary policy that's leading to a 5.4% year-over-year inflation rate, which is insane. They seem to support gas prices up $1.30 in the first 8 months of this man's administration. $1.30 a gallon in 8 months. Is that a policy that works? Not for Americans. Every one of us has been hit hard in the wallet by that. They seem to support a policy that has led to an emboldened China that sees no threat from the U.S. at all and bullies other people into accepting that Taiwan is not a country. It is, by the way, a country, and that the Chinese have no human rights issues. Oh, they really do. They sent over countless spies. Biden's DOJ refused to prosecute. Let him go. You know what that leads to? More spies. You know who supports that policy? Our press. They also support a Russian policy that includes not punishing those who engage in violence to achieve their political ends, like political rivals being tortured or imprisoned or poisoned, all things which Putin has done recently. And a Russia who will soon control the energy valve for most of the EU, which Biden gave the approval to, and removed all sanctions to stop it from happening. They support an administration that full-throatedly spoke in favor of defund the police until they saw where it got us, and has created a fearless class of criminal and a worried police force that is reasonably concerned that if they do their job, they could be prosecuted by leftist woke DAs like Kim Foxx or that idiot in St. Louis. They're reasonably concerned that if they do their job, they're going to be prosecuted. So what happens? They don't really do their job. So what happens? Crime runs rampant. This you can park directly at Joe Biden's doorstep. Because he supported every single mayor and every single governor along the way that has talked in terms of defunding the police. And last but not least, we are watching it unfold in front of us, an unmitigated disaster by any standards. Afghanistan's handling was botched so badly by a guy who told us again and again and again that this wasn't going to be like Saigon. It's exactly like Saigon. It's Saigon on steroids. These are the policies that the press agree with so wholeheartedly they refuse to question this president about any of them. And every single one of these policies has been an unmitigated failure at a minimum, and a disaster on par with the Hindenburg or the Titanic at a maximum. It's no wonder Donald Trump referred to the press as the enemy of the people, because I got news for you. Judging from what I just said, how could you view them as anything else? How could you view them as anything else? We're supposed to hear from Team Biden coming up at 2:45 our time. We'll see if he's awake and alert, and of course we'll carry it here because this coverage of Afghanistan is just, it's heartbreaking to watch. Look, we all knew the Taliban was going to retake this country. I don't think anybody thought otherwise. The idea that the Afghani people had somehow over 20 years developed the skills necessary to ward off these guys is insane and ridiculous, and yet there were people in power, real live military generals, who are like, oh no, they'll stave them off. And I told you when Joe Biden said we're pulling out of Afghanistan, I said, good. The Taliban's going to retake it. I don't care. Afghanis won't fight. They won't fight for their country. They won't fight for their freedom. So they get what they deserve, but we don't have to be there. We don't have to spend one more American life on this. Well, guess what? The generals were wrong, and your boy Dixon was right again. 12:17, let's take a break. We'll get this show up and lumbering under its own weight momentarily, and hopefully it'll be cheerier than the open. Back in a moment.
I'm gonna chow down my vegetables. I love you most of all, my favorite vegetable.
All right, a celebration of veggies.
It fits with the big super question of the day.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good vegetable song? It is 12:22. I am Richard Dixon. This is Talk 995 and Talk995.com. And on the Birmingham Broker Hotline is your one and only local mortgage broker, Michael Weber. Hello, Michael. What's going on in your world, man? Did you have a good weekend?
Well, I did until the first segment of this show.
Sorry, didn't mean to bring you down like that.
Listen, sometimes reality hurts.
Yeah,
I mean,
it does,
got to be said.
Punch
I
in
don't
the
think
face.
too many people would have a very good time arguing counterpoints to that monologue. So,
I'm sure there are people out there who would like to
weekend.
try.
Thank
you. I'm glad to hear.
We had the whole company over to the house for a little swimming pool end of summer party.
Wow. You're calling summer already. It's over. It's done.
Well,
Michael Weber says it's over.
For school students, it is.
Well, that's true.
Right?
That's true. Everyone's back in school.
Man.
I introduced you as a local mortgage broker, and I wonder how many people understand the difference between a mortgage broker and just a mortgage company, like a mortgage lender. What? Explain to me what we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up, because there's really three different venues for originating loans. You have lenders, like the big guys that we hear about all day, every day, that just do loans, mortgage loans, okay? And then you have your banks, and the banks can be local or big, and you may walk in the door and give them money to your checking account and also think, well, it's good to have my mortgage here because it's just easier. And then you have the guys like us who are brokers, and we live in the community, we work and we worship in the community, but we have a competitive advantage over everyone else because most of those same lenders have a division called a wholesale division that buys loans from us. And so we actually get access to everything that they provide on the retail side, but usually we get it cheaper because they're not paying our health insurance and our power bills and all that kind of stuff. So as a broker, we're simply a third party who has an opportunity to negotiate and shop on behalf of our clients for the exact same products that they're getting somewhere else in the marketplace.
Yeah, I would I'd put it in the same camp as your local independent insurance agency. They can shop around, get you the best possible deal for you, and save you a whole bunch of money. That's how it works. Oh, look at that. We're almost out of time. Thank you, Michael. A pleasure as always. Sorry I missed the invite to that party. I must have been, it must have gotten lost in the mail. 270-5550, the telephone number, 270-5550, WeberMortgage1B.com, WeberMortgage.com, and MLS number 219938. Thank you, sir. We'll do it again tomorrow.
There's nothing else to
Anybody remember the video for this one? Oh, man. It was creepy. A lot of claymation involved. Yee. It is I, Richard Dixon, Talk 995, Talk995.com. Sentinel Firearms, sentinelfirearms.us, 592-3004. 906 North of 40th Street. They have got a load of firearms for sale there. They've got a whole bunch that they can rent now. Their rental section has expanded because of a deal that they have cut now with Glock, giving them a chance. You can try it. A lot of new Glocks there that other people have never had the chance to shoot. That's pretty cool. And then if you love it, you can buy the new version of it right out of the case. They also, of course, have ammo, and they have accessories and gunsmithing so that they can put on the accessories, if that's what is called for, on your AR or your XM or your shotgun or your Tech 9, whatever it is that you're getting the accessory for, they can put it on for you. They also have a lot of holsters, different varieties, different kinds, paddle, underarm, whatever, and they'll make it happen for you. Just wonderful people who are going to be so nice and helpful no matter what the cause. That's what they do at Sentinel Firearms and sentinelfirearms.us, 592-3004, 906 North 40th Street. They are the proud sponsor of...
The big, stupid question of the day.
Which is this? What is one food, not a condiment, that you always have in your refrigerator? A food you always have in your fridge. Don't give me the common, the normal, the everyday. Yeah. I'm not going to name them because, you know what the common, the normal, and the everyday are. Just give me something like, I always seem to have this. Always have it in your refrigerator. 545-9950. If it's going to be in the refrigerator, that would presume that it has to be cold, right? Didn't say a food that you always have in your cabinet. What is one food that you always have in your refrigerator? 545-9950. No condiments allowed. No condiments allowed. Would love to hear your take on it. Let me know what you got. Break it out. Let's go. AJ, what are your chances? What are the odds that Joe Biden actually hits the airwaves at 2:45 today? You think that's
not going to happen?
No, I'm guessing that you and Leland will most likely be handling that after 3 o'clock.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah, that's the way these things tend to go. There was a time, by the way, I know it's hard to believe, kids, but there was a time when if the president said he was going to speak at X hour, he was on at X hour. That was true of Ronald Reagan. I want to say it was even true of Jimmy Carter, but I mean, that was a long time ago. Also, there were only 3 channels. So when they said, the president's speaking tonight at 8, networks had cleared the time for him. They had put off whatever was going to air at that time, and they built a schedule around. And they also knew how long he was going to talk for, if it was going to be 15 minutes or it was going to be a half an hour or whatever. And so they could schedule accordingly. Once it got to the point where not every presidential speech merited breaking into network coverage, and really it was just the CNNs and MSNBCs and later the Fox Newses of the world that were going to be doing the breaking in, it got real loosey-goosey. And the first president I can remember being really late to anything was Bill Clinton. He really started to get real slipshod about what time he was going to come on. If they said 2, it was frequently 2:20. But I don't think there's ever been anybody worse than Barack Obama at this. See, George W. Bush felt like I do about people who are late, tardy people, which I don't care for at all, because it essentially says, I have no respect for your time. If you tell me you're going to meet me at, 4 o'clock somewhere, and you don't show up until 4:20, what you're telling me is you think your time is more important than my time. You made me get there at 4 o'clock to wait on your ass, and then you didn't show up. And so I find that I'm extremely offended by that. The whole behavior is unacceptable in my opinion, and I do my best to not be late to anything, except, of course, parties where you have to be fashionably late because nobody gets there at 7. I mean, they say 7, but you show up at 7, you're going to be all alone at that party. So 7:45. Anyway, Barack Obama, he took this thing to an extreme. He would be 45 minutes late. I remember one time he was an hour and 15 minutes late for a television appearance, I was just like, holy cow. And I expected better out of Donald Trump. He's a businessman. There's money on the line. You know, he always has to be prompt. He has to, be there, Johnny on the spot, ready to go. Time is money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Nope. Every bit as bad. Every bit as bad as Barack Obama. Maybe worse in some cases. I don't think he ever got an hour and 15 minutes late. But, yeah, he was bad. Now it's just become de rigueur. It's just normal for a president to say 2:45 and not show up until 3:05, 3:10, whatever. We'll see what happens here if he makes it or not. Look, the reality is Biden had to be pressured into this. The man has been hiding. And while, as I said, I think if you didn't believe that the Taliban was going to eventually retake Afghanistan, you were living in a fantasy world, okay? You were not fully rooted in reality. I will say I didn't know that it was going to happen this quickly. I thought maybe they'd wait until the last vestiges of America was gone, but the Taliban couldn't wait, and they wanted to make it look like they were chasing us out, which, largely they did in the end. I mean, we were leaving anyway, but they kind of hurried us out the door, right? In an effort to show some kind of force and to show that region, hey, we're bad, we're badass, we're in charge. It's not so much that the Taliban retook, because to me, these guys have an infinite timeline. You have to understand this. These guys have an infinite timeline. That there is no such thing as we have to get this done tomorrow or next week or by such and such a deadline. Not when it comes to fundamentalist Islam. Let me remind you, these people still bear a grudge from something that happened in the 1100s, okay? The Crusades. They're still pissed off, and they're still looking for revenge for something that happened in the 1100s. And by the way, when people try to point that out and go, well, they're just paying us back for the Crusades, I would remind you, A, there wasn't a United States of America in 1100, so they're not paying us back for this stuff. And secondly, the Crusades were nothing more than a response to Islam going in and taking over those lands that had previously been held by Christians, usually by the sword. And so Muslims went in, they took over that land. The Crusades came from Europe and wiped the Muslims off of that land. It was really just quid pro quo. At that point, you could go, all right, we're even. We got our land back. Nope. Muslims, fundamentalist Islamic terrorists, really, have been bearing a grudge about that situation since the 1100s. You think these people weren't eventually going to take over in Afghanistan? Because the people of Afghanistan apparently don't love freedom enough to fight for it. And it's not a surprise that they took over. How quickly they did it might be a surprise. But what's really, really cooked Joe Biden's goose is that not a month and a half ago, he was standing there on television in front of God and everybody telling us, oh, no, they're not going to do that's not going to happen. That's never going to. Don't worry. Like, is that your question? Seriously? You really think that? You're so stupid. Why would you ask a question like that? They're not coming back in. No. Now, we got 300,000 trained Afghan troops. What the hell happened to those guys, by the way? What happened to the 300,000 trained Afghan troops? 300,000 trained Afghan troops against 75 Taliban. Oh, okay. 75,000 Taliban versus 300,000 Afghanis. Yeah, we should be able to whip their by. What do you mean they just won? What? I'm sorry, they what? What now? Hold on. I thought the ref just blew the opening whistle. And they just won. They scored already, and now the game's over. Okay, well, damn. I didn't see that coming. As I mentioned, when the Taliban began moving through Afghanistan, there's a reason why we were able to take Afghanistan so quickly, because it's run by a series of warlords. There's 5 or 7, I don't remember how many, but it's broken up into sections. And these warlords run their section, okay? You can elect a president. It doesn't matter. It's a joke. The presidential power means nothing if he doesn't have power over these warlords, and almost none of them do. So you've got these 5 or 7 warlords. And the way the United States won was to go in and say, we'll give you this duffel bag full of money, if you just do what we say from now on, and then we'll claim that, we took this area. Or, we could go ahead and we could use our high-powered weapons and we could wipe you all out. I mean, we could come in, we could do a daisy cutter, basically. We could drop a Moab on this area, and you and all your people would be gone and these mountains would be leveled. Do you want that, or do you want to just take this big bag of money and play our game for as long as we say? Oh, yeah, well, we'll take the money. And we went from region to region to region doing that. Sure, there were some shots fired, but eventually we bought Afghanistan. And then when it came time to leave, well, that loyalty, the time had expired on that. It was a little bit like the old Columbia House Record Club. You can buy 7 warlords for a penny, as long as you agree to buy 3 more at the regular price over the next 2 years. And so it was over. We were done. They're like, we got the money. We gave them what they said they wanted while they were here. Now the Taliban is rolling back in again. They're going to take control. We're going to be loyal to them. And you know what? We get to keep our land. We get to remain in charge. We're going to continue to tend our poppy fields and sell our heroin. And life is good. And that's the folly that is Afghanistan, and why anybody thinks that they can actually take and hold Afghanistan and keep it or make it free. Until and unless the citizens rise up against those warlords, until and unless the citizens value freedom over everything else, there's no way Afghanistan is ever going to be its own nation. And they largely, again, I can't say it enough, and I know people find it offensive. I don't care. They get what they deserve. They deserve what they get. If you're not willing to stand up and fight for your freedom, then guess what? It's going to be taken from you every time. And that is exactly what's going on in Afghanistan. And Joe Biden misplayed this thing from the get-go. Getting out, not a bad idea. Let me be clear on that. Getting out, not a bad idea. I'll explain how it might have been handled better when we return. Your thoughts, of course, are always welcome. 545-9950, the Birmingham Broker phone line, 545-9950, 844-455-9950. Back in a moment.
Eat steak, eat a big old steer, eat steak, do we have one deer? Eat beef, it's a mighty good food, it's a great A meal when I'm in the mood. Cowpokes will come from near and far when you throw a few ribeyes.
I plan on eating some steak, not too far away. Headed to Chicago this coming weekend, looking forward to the trek. There's going to be some good stuff going on there. Going to be eating a lot of food. Oh, yeah. And, as soon as I get back, right back on the way to wellness. Right back on the way to wellness. Hey, look, if you saw me at the Jawbone Jam, if you saw me playing with the Cash Domino Killers on Saturday night, I'm staying slim. I'm keeping the weight off. It feels good. I'm real happy about it. But every once in a while, you just got to blow it out. I mean, I'm only going to be in Chicago for half a day Friday, all of Saturday, all of Sunday, and a little bit Monday morning. So I'm going to try to make the most of my trip. I mean, my goal is to enjoy every last famous Chicago comestible that I can get my hands on. And then, of course, when I get back, we'll worry about taking the weight back off again, which shouldn't be too difficult. And that's the thing about Way to Wellness. It also makes sure that you fill up a whole lot faster if you do drift off the program for a reason like this. The fact is, you don't want to eat until you're hurt anymore, because it feels so good not to do that. Retraining the way your body handles food, retraining the way your brain handles food. They got this cool Contrave. It's a prescription that kind of rewires your brain about cravings and satiety and all of these things. It's a remarkable thing, and I highly recommend. But you don't have to use it if you don't want to. Look, if nothing else, just get the initial consultation, which is free, from Way to Wellness, 994-2393, aplanforme.com, aplanforme.com. And over the weekend, I ran across a couple of people who are also having great success on Way to Wellness. So it's not just me, it's not just the gang at the radio station. People who try it, love it, because it works. That, my friends, is Way to Wellness, aplanforme.com. Let's go to the phones. Bob is in Deutschland über alles. Bob, you're on Talk 995. What's up, bro? Hey, man.
Say, buddy, Sir Richard, you sure said it when you said this Afghanistan is just like Saigon. Exactly. The South Vietnamese fled, the armies fled and everything in face of the Viet Cong and NVA coming down there. And all these people that thought that America was going to be fighting for Afghanistan forever and ever and ever, they just sat complacently chewing their cud and watching Americans fight these battles and lose their lives and stuff like that. But then, just like weeds in the garden, if you don't take care of the weeds, they're going to come back. You don't even have to pay attention to it. They'll come back automatically. And these people, these Taliban, have revenge and killing in their hearts. The revenge cemented in their hearts. And this caller on the Tim and Dale show was saying that why doesn't the U.S. government let us win our wars? You know, what's the next war going to be when they start sending troops over to fight somewhere? They know they're not going to be winning anything because it's going to be the same crap as they hand out with all these other wars. And even back in Second World War, Sir Richard, I think they had like MacArthur. Well, not so much MacArthur. I'm sorry, the Korean War. They wouldn't let MacArthur finish what he wanted. And I understand some of it might have been drawing China in, but these fighters, these warriors that we had, General Patton in the Second World War, you know, he wanted to finish the thing. He even wanted to use the Germans against the Russians. But this Afghan thing is so out of line, and we are exposing ourselves as to what we really are, but our troops have to fight these battles and never win.
Yeah,
I'm
with you, man. We send them in with these rules of engagement, and Obama was notorious for this. Rules of engagement that, you know, we could not possibly win. And look, this was, there's plenty, you can tar George W. Bush with this as well, because it was under him that we went into Afghanistan, which, I'm not against going into Afghanistan. It was the right thing to do. We told the Taliban either hand over al-Qaeda or we're going to go take care of you. And so we did, because they wouldn't. And to me, though, once we got Osama bin Laden, what the hell were we still doing there? Why were we still there? It made no sense to me. I was like, fine, pack up and go. And yes, the Taliban will take it back, and they're going to take it back eventually anyway. But we use these ridiculous rules of engagement that would not allow us to win a war. And I tell you, if we'd used them in World War II, we never would have won. We'd all be speaking German right now, my friend. Well, I mean, you already do speak German.
I'm sorry, sir. When this George Bush came back on that ship, was wearing that uniform, said mission accomplished. There was nothing accomplished, but he wanted to be like his daddy up there.
That was
like his daddy.
First off, that was in Iraq. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. That was in Iraq that he did that. That the mission was accomplished, and that we had made it.
Accomplished in Iraq.
Yeah, no. I mean, the war was only really beginning at that point, because then you had all of the different various terrorist factions that we had to fend off. You know, it's a much more complex. And George W. Bush's stated goal was like, we're not in this for nation building. And then what did he do? He started 20 years of nation building. It was the exact opposite of what we were supposed to be doing. And now that nation is being torn apart. Out of time, Bob. I appreciate your thoughts and your passion, as always. Thank you very much for calling and being a part of it. You're welcome anytime. Hey, we've got more to come, including Jeffrey Lord, who is going to be joining us in the next half hour. He from Newsmax TV, Conservative Review, American Spectator, thejeffreylord.com. It's also the anniversary of Elvis Presley's death. Hard to believe. I remember when he died, I thought 42 seemed so old. I'm now 15 years older than Elvis was when he died. And I feel like a spring chicken. I'm going to take a nap during this news break. I'll be right back. Stick around.